Sometimes the people who hurt you the most never raise their voice. They never insult you. They never tell you they hate you. Instead, they go silent. And the terrifying part is, your brain will often destroy you harder than they ever could. You stare at your phone, no notification. You tell yourself, maybe they're busy. 10 minutes later, you check again. Then again. And suddenly, one unanswered message starts controlling your entire mood. But here's what most people don't realize. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes, it's psychological control. And later in this video, I'll explain why silence becomes emotionally addictive, especially for people with childhood trauma. Because this goes much deeper than simple ignoring. The human brain is designed to fear uncertainty. Your mind can handle pain. What it struggles to handle is not knowing. That's why silence feels so emotionally violent. When someone suddenly becomes cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable, your brain starts searching for answers immediately. Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Are they angry? Are they leaving me? And the scary part is with the less information you receive, the more emotionally obsessed you become. This is why emotionally intelligent manipulators prefer silence over arguments. Arguments end. Silence lingers. Silence forces you to continue the conversation inside your own head, and your imagination becomes the weapon. Some manipulators understand something terrifying. If they create enough emotional uncertainty, you will begin controlling yourself for them. Read that again. You become quieter, more careful, more anxious, not because they controlled you directly, but because your nervous system adapted to emotional unpredictability. That's how psychological conditioning works. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, and most victims never notice it happening. Because technically, nothing happened. No screaming, no insults, no threats, just distance, coldness, delayed replies, emotion disappearing without explanation. But emotionally, it feels unbearable. Because silence creates a psychological vacuum, and the human brain hates empty space. So it fills the silence with fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. Especially if you grew up in an emotionally unstable environment. And this is where dark psychology becomes dangerous. People with childhood emotional wounds are often hypersensitive to disconnection. If love was unpredictable growing up, silence becomes terrifying as an adult. Because your brain learned something very early. Silence means danger. Danger that someone is angry. Danger that love is disappearing. Danger that you are about to be abandoned. And manipulators can sense this vulnerability incredibly fast. That's why toxic people often alternate between warmth and disappearance. One day, attention, affection, validation. The next day, distance, coldness, silence. This creates trauma bonding. And trauma bonding feels dangerously similar to love. But it's not love. It's emotional dependency created through inconsistency. In fact, studies on behavioral psychology show something disturbing. Unpredictable rewards create stronger addictions than consistent rewards. That's why gambling becomes addictive, and manipulative relationships work the same way. Your brain becomes addicted to emotional relief, not happiness, relief. Relief when they finally text back, relief when they finally show attention again, relief when the silence finally ends. And eventually, you stop asking, why are they hurting me? Instead, you start asking, how do I get them back? That's the moment manipulation becomes psychological control, because now they control your emotional state without saying a word. But here's the most dangerous part. Manipulative silence often looks mature from the outside. Calm people are usually trusted more. Quiet people often appear emotionally intelligent. So victims struggle to explain what's happening, because other people only see they just need space. But your body feels something different. Anxiety, hypervigilance, emotional instability. You start monitoring tiny changes, their tone, response time, energy shifts. You rehearse messages before sending them. You become afraid of sounding too emotional. Little by little, you abandon your authentic personality just to maintain emotional connection. That's not communication, that's survival mode. And survival mode changes people. It makes them smaller, quieter, more emotionally dependent, until one day they barely recognize themselves anymore. Now, to be clear, not all silence is manipulation. Healthy people also need space, but healthy silence feels different. Healthy silence creates clarity. Manipulative silence creates confusion. Healthy silence feels respectful. Manipulative silence feels like punishment. Your nervous system usually knows the difference before your mind does. If someone's silence constantly makes you anxious, pay attention to that. Because real love does not weaponize communication. Real love does not make you afraid every time your phone gets quiet. And emotional maturity is not staying calm while someone slowly destabilizes your mental health. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is stop chasing people who enjoy being chased, because silence only becomes power when you're afraid to walk away from it.